Ebullient greetings. I'm your host, Jacquie Bird of Jacquie Bird Spiritual Wellness, your guide to stress and anxiety relief, mindfulness, awareness, self-care, self-love, and personal growth. Welcome and thank you for joining me as we roll with peace in mind. Today's riff is this thing called aging, learning to go with the flow. When I first went to Guatavita, Colombia, I saw some pretty amazing quotes posted near the entrance. At the top of the mountain is a beautiful lake which spawned the legend of El Dorado, the Golden King. It is a magical place with amazing views and amazing energy. So it was only fitting to place quotes based on sayings of the Muisca, an indigenous people of the area. One of the quotes that jumped out to me was, "Do you let things flow, or do you attempt to make everything stay in one place?" Phew, deep. What a question. I was blown over to see a message like that in what is basically a public park. There were other amazing quotes as well along the pathway, which, lucky for me, had been translated to English along with the Spanish, even though my buddy would have translated if asked, but I really loved being able to read it and absorb it for myself. Do you let things flow, or do you attempt to make everything stay in one place? Learning to go with the flow, getting better at doing so, or recognizing there is a need for it in your life is definitely one of the jewels that aging can bring forth. I put the word aging in quotation marks because getting older is not so much about aging to me. Depending on how you look at it, I think it can emphasize the idea that it's really about living a fuller life and then more life in these bodies, and how we can do that. We certainly have preconceived notions about what this aging journey is due to what we see around us and what some of us are dealing with in taking care of a parent or parents and or witnessing our elder family members and friends battle with a multitude of health issues that are attributed to growing older. But that doesn't mean that you will necessarily have these challenges, so why invite them in by assuming it will happen to you as you physically mature? And if you are indeed dealing with physical challenges in this moment, perhaps consider how going with the flow more could contribute to your well-being. And I know that may sound weird, but when we battle against things that are not within our control, that's energy expended that could be used to our betterment, and it adds age. It adds wear and tear on our mind-body experience. Sure, things change as our bodies mature through time, but that goes without saying. Otherwise, we would all remain infants as the day we first arrived. There was a time that we celebrated getting older, remember? Oh man, the milestone birthdays like 13, 16, 18, 21. So why do we freak out as the numbers get higher on each birthday after 21? Heck, if you stop to think about it, every moment adds to our maturing bodies. Why not go with the flow and not making it a mental non-health trip? I have known folks to damn near have agita as their birthdays approach, so freaked out about the inevitable. Why not go with the flow? As long as you're on the planet, you're gonna add time to your body. Why not just chill, enjoy, and be grateful? Life is a gift. And if it's not feeling quite like a gift right now, what can you do to change it? What do you need to leave, let go of, or accept, or go with the flow on? Now, some people freak out when they see a gray hair. Why not go with the flow? Or as many do, there's hair color. We have choices, but whether you want the grays to show or not If you can see that each gray hair is a testament to a life unfolding, a life maturing, a life expanding and changing. And when change appears, well, it changes things. Going with the flow more helps you grow more. Ooh, I like that. Going with the flow more helps you grow more. Going with the flow more helps you grow more. Learning to go with the flow helps one navigate those changes with more grace, more humility, more serenity, more peace, less stress. Remember that the body doesn't react to things because of what the mind sees. It reacts because of the fight or flight syndrome, which is an automatic physical reaction to what the body perceives as something of harm. So if you're freaking out because you have more gray hair, your body goes into pumping more adrenaline. It doesn't reason that you're just flipping out because you have more gray hair. The emotions that are triggered by your observation is a switch, and that's what your body reacts to, not the object of the reason you're flipping out on. It doesn't say to the adrenal glands, "Oh, false alarm, chill folks, stand down. She's just bugging because she found another gray hair signaling to her that she's aging. Don't pump the adrenaline, it's all good." Your body doesn't have that kind of conversation. Every time we flip, it's the old fight or flight button that gets triggered. And yes, there are some things that have changed physically with time, but that has happened all throughout life, from birth, childhood, teen years, adulting, and more adulting, etc. Learning to go with the flow helps us to change the things we can change, stop fighting with the things we cannot, and to recognize the difference and to allow surrender in. Yes, I can dye my hair, but it's not because I freak out about gray hair, but because there are times I like to play with color. Freaking out about more gray hair, why? Go with the flow. Go with the flow. You can either cover the gray or not cover the gray. But accepting the gray and that this is a part of the change in your body and being okay with it, being in acceptance of it, is going with the flow. Going with the flow helps keep stress and anxiety down in a big way. And less stress equals looking and feeling better. It helps us remain grounded and centered. I remember showing up one time to vend my jewelry. The venue was to provide tables and chairs. It was an all-day market, and vendors have to arrive pretty early to create their temporary shop and, most importantly, get a good spot. I don't drive and had lugged my heavy suitcase on 2 trains up and down stairs from Jersey City to downtown Brooklyn and was pretty sweaty when I got there because though morning, it was already hot as Hades. And even though I got there early, a truckload of folk got there before me, and the site was pretty full. Matter of fact, there were no spots inside the venue. That meant myself and about 6 other vendors who arrived at the same time had to vend out on the street in the back of the site, well away from the action and customers. And it was not a heavily trafficked street. To top it off, the organizers had nary a chair nor table for any of us within sight. And the more we waited, the more angry vendors showed up. Y'all, those other vendors were pissed. I mean, you could see smoke rising from their heads, out their eyes, ears, and mouths. It was hot. And I was none too happy about it either. We had paid a pretty penny to participate just like everybody else. I had paid well in advance of the deadline, but still, there was no spot for me. The workers told us they would get us tables and chairs, so we had to wait. While the other vendors fumed, I found a spot on a ledge out of the sun and sat down. It was July and it was blazing. That was something. So we waited. We waited a long time. The market was going to be opening soon, and we were all still table and chairless. So we had been sitting about an hour, and the vendors fumed hotter and hotter. One of them almost attacking the worker. She was so outdone. "When am I going to get the table?" she yelled. And at one point, the same vendor ended up mad at me. "I can't believe you're just sitting there so calm." I don't remember what I said, but knowing me, I probably just shrugged. It didn't make sense to go on and on about it. That would have just made my blood boil, and I still wouldn't have had a table, chair, or a spot to set up on. Going with the flow. Now, meantime, the market had opened for business, and all we could do, because we were sitting outside the gate, right? All we could do was look inside at the venue, and the people were starting to come in, and we saw, vendors starting to make sales, and there were still no tables or chairs for us. Then out of what seemed like nowhere, a man is standing next to me, and he's talking to me. He was opening up the table. They can be a pain in the butt to open at times and set up right alone. But he was opening up the table, and he gave me my chairs before anyone else out there, because I had sat so still and quiet, and I was nice. Even though I was near too happy with the situation, it wasn't their fault things were the way they were. The organizers had overbooked. That greed thing. My life experience had shown me that it was better to go with the flow. My age taught me that. I might not have been so calm in my 20s, 30s, or even 40s. Well, no, maybe by that time I think I had it way more together. By the late 30s, yeah. My outlook on things had changed a great deal. But in my 20s, oh, please, I would have been up there fussing with that other lady. But going with the flow, man. My life experiences have shown me that going with the flow and not trying to bend everything to my will and timing has played a huge part in my peace of mind. The more we can cultivate going with the flow, the more beneficial it is to our well-being. And that is what this thing called aging can show us, if we let it, how to flow easier with life, no matter what it brings. Ask yourself, generally speaking, do you let things flow, or do you attempt to make everything stay in one place? Maybe letting up on things can add ease to your life in more ways than you can imagine. And honestly, as time has gone on and I've gotten more in the go with the flow groove, and there's times when I forget, trust me. There are times when I forget and I'm sputtering and fussing and carrying on. And then, I remember to go with the flow because of all the examples I have had in my life to date. So as time has gone on, I'm quite happy. I'm grateful and content to be a well-seasoned human. Oh my God, to be a teen, a 20-something, a 30-something, what a mess was I in, is not something I'd wish for. I earned the lesson to be comfortable in my own skin and to honor where I am and to know that what I thought would have had dire consequences at another point in time were just things passing in the wind. The things that were the absolute end of the world at 16 may not register at all at 26. What made you batty at 26, you may not give a single thought to at 46, and so on and so forth. What other people think of you doesn't even begin to ruffle your feathers at 50. You could care less, hopefully. And at 63 and change, please. And man, that's freedom, that's liberation. In living more life and learning to go with the flow, you can learn that phases are an integral part of it, that we have great ones, good ones, not so good ones, sucky ones, absolutely horrible ones, and back around again. Phases are unavoidable, no matter how expert a planner you are, no matter how big your bank account is. But how long you remain in the bad phases, how long you dwell in the hotel of discontent is within your power. Learning to go with the flow can teach you to not fight against the tide, but to relax and calm yourself, that things can and do work out however they will. That's not to say to be passive, but to recognize that sometimes sitting still and being passive in a situation may be the best way to flow for a time. Going with the flow informs us what choices and actions are the best way to go, because in that space, we can better hear divine guidance. And sometimes that's a lesson that comes with, quote unquote, aging. Learning to go with the flow is the absolute best. And talking about going with the flow, I got a few things coming up this month. On October 23rd and 24th, I am offering a guided meditation and journaling workshop called To Forgive is Divine. And that workshop can actually help you go with the flow in terms of, well, you got to take the workshop to find out. It's 90 minutes and begins at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And you have a choice of 2 dates, the 23rd or the 24th. The workshop is virtual, so I hope to see you, especially you guys on the other side of the world who go to bed late. The link is in the show description. Also in October, on the 31st at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time is my end of the month Stress Busters guided meditation session that is also virtual and 30 minutes. That link is also in the show description, so I hope you join me. Guided meditation can definitely get you in the mindset of going with the flow. Please tell your family and friends about this podcast. Word of mouth is the bomb diggity. Also, please consider becoming a patron of this podcast. Your support would be a boost in my continuing to create, host, and produce this baby. And lastly, please visit my website for stress, anxiety relief tools, mindfulness tools. I got a whole bunch of goody things on there. But in the meantime, you know what to do. You got to roll with peace in mind.